How do you nurture from 0 to a million or 10x?
Well, no company exists without sales. Can we agree on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So,
The only reason a company exists or should exist is to provide for the needs of the community that it serves. Doesn't matter what that community is. It could be in plumbing, it could be in publishing, it could be in advertising, it could be anything. But the only reason that company exists is to serve their needs.
yes.
So even if you're the local mechanic, your job is to serve their needs and repair their vehicles, period.
A true unsung hero, one person at a time.
Phenomenal young man. My name is Gideon Fomokwai, the Story Warrior. On the Story Warrior podcast, we are always looking at ways to find the right people that can help us tell untold stories that can ignite unstoppable business growth. And today we are spoiled for choice. We have the one and the only one that I know has done it over and over and over again. We're talking about Mr. Dr. Rawson. My name, if you're joining for the first time, is Gideon Fomokwai. I call myself the Story Warrior because I believe the best wars can be fought with stories, not with weapons. A story is an instrument that helps you to persuade and persuade without losing blood, without losing tears, and all of that. And today we have someone who has done it many times, Mr. Dr. Rawson. He calls himself a possibilist, an independent consultant, a serial entrepreneur, a leader, a speaker, a philanthropist, a veteran, and yes, a friend. It is because he's a kind and friendly man that I have the pleasure of inviting him back over and over and over, and he has never said no to a single invitation. Dear R, good morning.
Good morning. How are you this morning?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much. And just having you, it already makes my day. But I want to jump right in right here because you have been a serial entrepreneur. You've founded many businesses across America and beyond. And let me ask you, what is it about entrepreneurship that always draws you back and over and over and over again and again?
Well, it's a good question because not a lot of people have ever asked me that question. But I think one of the things I've learned about myself, this is my last day of being 78. So this is one of the things I've learned is that I'm a builder. I'm not a maintainer. I remember in one of the largest companies that I built, one of the VCs said to me, he says, well, of course, once you get this built, you're going to maintain it, right? No, that's not me. And I said, you'll know when I want to get out. And so he came in on a Christmas board meeting and he looked at me and he said, oh my God, you want to leave, don't you? And I said, yeah, I'm done. It's all built. You guys can just run it from here. So I exited my golden parachute and moved on.
By then, how much was the company worth, if you don't mind?
Well, we were doing $1,256,000,000 a year in sales.
Oh my God, $1,256,000,000 in sales a year. And when you founded the business, about how much was it worth?
Zero.
All right, folks, you hear me out. I told you I am the luckiest kid on earth that I met this gentleman who has done it many times. You just heard it, zero, and raise it to over $1 billion in sales a year. So pull your chairs closer and sit tight because we're about to get him to release a lot more information on how to nurture an idea from 0 to billions. So, yeah, but you have always maintained you're a kind person. You're a father, you are a grandfather, and you're also very friendly. How do you mix and match all of this? Because some people, when they become successful, it gets up here, it messes up with their minds, and they throw away their friends. You, on your very historic book, unlikely, you even say philanthropist, veteran, and friend. So how do you meld all this together?
Well, you've probably heard many people say that, well, he's one way in business, he's another way at church, and he's completely different at home. Well, I never understood that. I think your character determines who you are, and your integrity and determines how you maintain who you are, and your credibility is the result of those two efforts. And so I've just tried to be the same person no matter where I'm at. and treat people exactly the same, no matter who they are or where I find them. And when you do that, I think it makes you that even-tempered person that people want to be around.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And we've been around you for a while. This summer, I brought my team over to Las Vegas, very close to you, and you took time from your busy schedule, from your family, to come and share with my team of builders how to build beyond borders. And you spent a lot of time with us just giving. I would say maybe that's an extension of your philanthropy because we could not afford to pay for your time. And now you're onto a new big idea, which is lives should be built and rebuilt on character. And character, from what you're saying, is a big deal. So, what is the importance of character? Or can we even put a price tag on character in business?
Well, I'm going to try and mix the first question with this question. Okay, so character begins with who you are. Things like, are you respectful? Do you take responsibility? Are you resilient? If somebody knocks you down, do you get back up? When people say, forget it, I'm not going to buy from you, does that bother you? Do you get back up? Do you take it personally? Do you move on? Do you learn from it? So that's all part of having a character. Gratitude, that's a huge part of being who you are. Kindness is that. And joy is another one. Joy is always with you, but few people realize that. So the top 5 character traits are in this order: respect, responsibility, resilience, kindness, and joy. If you don't have those things, I would advise you not to start a business.
You're disqualifying quite a few people there. Thank you for saying that.
Exactly so. Because, you could always be the boss. Anybody can be a boss.
Thank you.
But not everybody can run a company that's successful, and not everybody can get their best from others. Consider this. I walk in the morning and I say, all right, Bob, you need to take care of this. And Joe, get over there and do that. Sally, make sure you do this and you do that. As opposed to, good morning. How's everybody doing this morning? Everybody ready for a great day? Okay, here's some things that need to get done. Bob, I wonder if you'd mind going over there and getting that done. And when you're done, would you report back to me, please? Just let me know that it's complete. Thank you very much. And you do the same thing with each and every one of your employees. And I'm assuming that it's a small company, 3, 4, 5 people. And you do that, these people will walk through walls for you. The person who says, get over there and do that and do this and just get it done. That person has a lot of absenteeism, has a lot of people who don't engage either with your clients or customers or you.
Yes.
So do you know what lack of engagement costs America? Over $784 billion a year.
I've seen that statistic in some of my leadership classes. Yes.
And that's sad. And that's the fault of this guy, the CEO. That doesn't belong on anybody else's shoulders. It belongs on his or hers. And so you ask, what keeps me coming back? Well, the answer is the challenge of building something. Anybody can build something. I mean, I'm an amateur woodworker and I can build a square box as well as anybody else. Mine aren't always exactly square, but I do my best to make them square. But the difference is that when I put my box together, it was put together with a lot of love. And when I put it up on the wall, my family sees that it's a little bit off. They think about all the love that went into that and the reason why I built it in the first place. The guy who doesn't care about those people, he builds it, it's a little bit off. And first thing they say is, hey, it's not right. It's crooked. You made it crooked. See, you made it crooked. They want him to know he's as bad as he thinks they are. And so it goes. So the answer to the first question is I'm a builder. That's all I've ever known. And my first company was a total accident, as you know. And my second company was by design. I saw that these people needed someone to come in and actually be a leader. Surprisingly, a lot of people start companies thinking that they are a capable leader. Many of these people couldn't lead 3 people to the bathroom with a sign on their back. That's unfortunate, but they don't have the character to do it. So the first step is to make sure you've got character. Yes. Let's start with that. Then the next immediate step is to understand what's your end game. What are you going to do with this? You're going to
Where do you
build
want
it,
to
sell
where do you
it?
want to go with this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you building a legacy? This is something you want your children to be involved in, and your grandchildren and your great grandchildren to be involved in. Is this something that you want to be known for, eventually put wings on hospitals with your name on it? I mean, is that your end game? Is that what you want to do? Or are you building something that will be of service to others first? Now, my approach has always been, if I'm going to put something together, I want to know, one, how I'm going to exit. Two, I want to know who benefits from this besides me. I know that I'll always benefit. If I provide something that the clients and customers can use and solve a problem, I'll make money. It just naturally follows. I don't have to worry about that. A lot of people don't.
Talking about that, you once built a company that uses PVC,
Yes.
both underground and in buildings.
Yes.
And give us a little background as to how you got that started and when you came to the end game. Did you sell it off? How did it get started? How did it end?
Well, my first company was a total mistake. I didn't expect to be an entrepreneur. I expected to sell. I'm a really good salesperson. And while I was in the Air Force, I sold my way through the Air Force selling Rolls Royces and Jaguars. So I made a few dollars. And when I got out of the service, I wanted to go back to work in a plumbing company that I'd worked for before I went in the military. And now his son was running it. And his son said, yeah, well, we're moving and we really don't need you. I said, really? You're moving? So you're moving your old warehouse? The guy said, yeah. I said, would you like to know what I did in Vietnam? He said, what? I said, I set up warehouses. Oh, well, maybe we do need you. So they hired me. They were supposed to get the warehouse set up in 6 months. I set it up in 6 weeks.
Oh my God.
And then he wanted me to run the warehouse. And I said, that's not where I'm headed. I said, I want to be in sales. Well, the youngest salesperson at that time was in his 40s. I was 21. So the company fell on hard times almost immediately. I guess they were going there before they allowed me to go out and sell. So the owner's son said, so where do you see yourself in 5 years? It's a question everybody asks. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? So I looked right at him and I said, I see myself sitting in your chair, only doing a better job. He fired me. He fired me. So I went home and I had a wife and child at the time. And so his dad, who owned 2 other companies, called me and he says, what are you going to do now? I said, well, there's an old American expression that says you don't have a pot to relieve yourself in and you don't have a window to throw it out of. I didn't have either. And so I told him so. He said, well, you're a hell of a salesperson. And he says, I know you're just beginning. He says, I have an idea. Come over to my office tomorrow morning. I went over there. There were 10 national manufacturers of products. And one of them was underground plumbing. And one of the others was a product that nobody had ever heard of, which was PVC pipe. Everybody advised me against PVC pipe because if you know anything about plumbing, you know that copper was here first and copper has been used forever. So why would somebody put in PVC when you can put in copper? Copper costs more money to put in. So as a plumber, we want to put in copper. We don't want to put in PVC. So anyway, I was advised against it, but they built a warehouse for me and they put all the product in there and they paid all my expenses. They paid all my travel expenses. They paid my personal expenses. They paid my rent, they paid for my car, they paid for everything. And I didn't have to pay them back until after 2 years. So in the first 14 months, I sold all the underground plumbing for Walt Disney World. And then I also pioneered the use of PVC pipe in wall and in ground in the state of Florida. So after doing that, that created a hell of a multiple for my company. And I didn't even understand what a multiple was then. I just knew that I'd done a good thing. And somebody came along and offered me this enormous check. And I realized it was more than enough to pay off everybody that had been so kind to get me in that first business and leave me with quite a bit of money all the way back to California. I didn't like Florida anyway. And so that was my first company. And
wow.
It wasn't planned. It just, it's the way it happened right place, right time, but it was predicated on my core strength, which is I'm a fairly good salesperson.
That is unbelievable story. So when you say multiples, maybe explain it to some of our startups, people that are curious, they're willing to work, they're willing to build, and they have the character. So what's multiples and what did they sell you with?
Well, back in the day, it used to be 5x, which meant 5 times whatever your net is. That's what they would pay you.
Mhm.
So if your net was 100,000 a year, your company was worth at least 500,000. Today, it gets closer up to 10x. So it's grown quite a bit. And that will vary depending on the industry you're in, depending on the uniqueness of your business, whether or not you're the only one in it and
Yeah.
doing well, or you've got tons of competitors, or
Mhm.
they're just trying to add you into their stable of companies.
Yep.
There's so many variables. But the X means that they're going to pay you some number times whatever your net was.
And that's a big deal because today we actually wanted you to talk about how do you nurture, what are the strategies or what are the ways you nurture from 0 to 10x? Is there some secrets in the book or not even in the book that you've used or you've seen others use? You want to release one or two or three for us, and we want to get all our readers, our viewers, taking some notes. How do you nurture from 0 to 1 million or 10x?
Well, no company exists without sales. Can we agree on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sure.
The only reason a company exists or should exist is to provide for the needs of the community that it serves.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter what that community is. It could be in plumbing, it could be in publishing, it could be in advertising, it could be anything. But the only reason that company exists is to serve their needs.
Yes.
So even if you're the local mechanic, your job is to serve their needs and repair their vehicles, period. Now, if you're able to do that in exchange for the repair, they will pay you money. Does that make you a good salesman? Not necessarily. But what does make you a good salesman is when you realize that and you go to a car club and they have all these same kinds of cars that you like to work on, and you say, look, guys, you come use me, I'll give you a discount because I really love working on your cars, and it would be great for you to have a standardized mechanic. And his business soars, and the mechanic next door who just started his business, he can't figure it out, the difference. Okay. So every company that starts out wants to do well. I don't know any company that starts out and goes, gee, I want to fail. They all want to succeed. But how do you want to succeed? And what do you want to accomplish? What can you do for others that other people aren't already doing?
So I'm kind of writing this down. So number one is there should be a service that you're rendering. Number two is you're good at selling. And then number three, if I'm deducing this right, is finding that one person that can help you multiply, like you said, the car group or the car club. That way, you're not just selling to one person, you're not just serving one person, you're serving 3 or 4 of them. Is that correct? I got three there.
Exactly.
Okay.
When I was in the military, I was earning $50 a month. That'll show you how long ago it was.
Okay.
And by the way, the tires were around then. But anyway, I was earning $50 a month. And by accident, I had an opportunity to sell cars. And I didn't know they were such expensive cars. And because I grew up as a homeless kid, I had no idea what a Rolls Royce was. I had no idea what a Bentley was or a Jaguar or any of these high-end cars. And so I walked in and I looked at all these cars, and I went into the sales manager who was interviewing, and he says, "You're just a kid." I was literally 19 years old. And I said, "So what?" He said, "What do you know about expensive cars?" I said to him, "What do you know about being homeless?" He says, "What's one got to do with the other?" I said, "Did you ever try and sell your way out of being homeless?" Everybody thinks that when you're homeless, you're going to be poor forever. You're going to be poor white trash, poor black, poor whatever. You're going to be that forever, and that you're worth nothing. And you've got to convince others that you're not. And so it begins there. I said, "I was able to do that. How about you? Could you do that?" And he said to me, "No, I don't think I could, but I still don't think you could sell cars." He says, "I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you a chance to meet with the owner." I met with the owner. I told him the story, and he says, "You got the job." once I got the job, I was like everybody else. I'm standing there waiting for customers to come in. And I thought, this is the wrong approach. Why should I have to wait for a customer? Why can't the customers come to me for a specific reason? So this was in McCord Air Force Base in Washington. So I went over to Fort Lewis, which was next door. And at the time, coming back from Vietnam, were all these military officers. And so I went to personnel and I said, when these guys come back, you know what their rank is? You know how much money they have in the bank and how much is due them because they were overseas? And you know their phone number, where they're going to be staying? I said, if you'll give me that lead, if you'll give me that information, I'll take it from there. If I sell a car, I'll pay you $50. That was, for many of them, doubling their pay. I came home at night and we didn't have Post-it notes in those days. So we had a piece of paper with a thumbtack and it'd be all over my door. The landlord says, you know, you're going to buy a new door. I said, I don't care. I don't care. So I'd call these guys up and I'd say, I'm Rawson and I'm with a so-and-so company, and we sell Rolls Royces, Jaguars, and other sports cars. I said, do you have a car? Nope. Would you be interested in at least driving one of these cars? Well, yeah. I said, well, I have my Jag, my personal Jag with me. You'd like to drive my Jag? We'll go back to the dealership, which was 12 miles away. By the time I got them back to the dealership, they wanted my car. Specifically my car, which was a burgundy Jag with a tan interior. So I sold a lot of burgundy Jags with tan interiors because they loved it so much. And the car was $6,600, including tax, license, and undercoating.
No kidding. And you were about how old at that time?
I was 19.
Oh my God.
My commission was $175.
And this was a strategy that you'd advise. Like, I'm not just going to sit here and wait for people to come to me.
Oh,
I'm going to go out there and get them to come.
exactly.
So is there a name for that strategy? Oh, because this is a way of thinking that you've obviously replicated many times. As I've read your book, you've replicated that in many other areas. How do you call that? This way of thinking that says, you know what? I want to change, turn the table upside down. I want to go out there. I want to reverse the cycle. I want to do something different. How do you call that?
Service.
Service.
How can I be of service to more than one person?
How can I be of service to more than one person?
There's a biblical principle about feeding a man a fish, right? Read that story. A lot of people have. They know the story. Feed a man a fish. You fed him for the day. Teach him to fish.
Yes.
You fed him for the rest of his life.
Yes, sir.
Well, in my particular case, somebody taught me how to fish. And so if they weren't biting here, they were biting someplace else.
Yep.
And I just needed to find out where that place was. And so that's what I've spent my time doing is when I found companies is find out where they're biting, then go fish in that pond. So when I fish, though, what bait am I using? The bait I'm using is what they want me to use.
Yes.
They tell me this is my problem. And if I solve that problem, aren't I entitled to be paid?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Now, you've done that over and over. And this is like the last question, since we want to keep it within half an hour. And you've always been a great salesperson. What would you say is the power of story in selling? Can you sell without story? Or if story is important, how important is it and how do you use it?
Well, I've trained thousands of salespeople, and I can tell you that my opening line when I first start training them is, you need to understand this. Stories sell, details close.
Stories sell and details close.
Details close. Because when you're sharing with somebody that they have a problem, and if you're able to say, you know, that's an interesting problem. I remember so-and-so had a similar problem. And here's what we did to solve his problem. Really? How'd that work for him? Well, today he's worth a lot of money, and we'd like to think that we were a part of that.
That's amazing. And that's what we struggle to do here on the Story Warrior podcast, to help business owners understand the importance of storytelling in the process of selling, because it humanizes. It helps the other person to see that this is relatable. If you could help Mr. Rawson, maybe you can help me. It's relatable. And stories are also credible because, you know what? They help the other person to lean in. Say, really? Are you sure? And I just bought something the other day from Atlanta. It's a superfood. I had no desire to buy that. But when I listened to that guy, the more he told stories about what this superfood does, the more I was intrigued. By the time I was leaving from there, I bought one of that so that my mother-in-law can test it and see if it works. But I want to thank you so much, dear R, for taking the time to come spend this half hour with us. Is there one last word you give to someone who is starting out and they're having self-doubt?
Don't be afraid to admit you don't know something.
That is pretty dope. Don't be afraid to admit you don't know. And then go out there and seek to know from someone who has done it. And that's why we came to you, because you have done it many times. Thank you so much, Mr. Rawson. This has been yet another fascinating episode of the Story Warrior podcast featuring Mr. D.R. Rawson, who has been in the trenches and he has seen it, the dark and the light. And he came today to share with us about the ways that successful business people should operate. Thank you so much, Mr. Ross.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir.